Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and may the 4th be with you. For this year's 4th of May and the first on this channel, I wanted to do something special. So we're going to be taking a quick look at the history of Battlefront 2 as well as the state it's in today in 2026. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, it helps a lot and I would greatly appreciate it. Now, usually I review movies on this channel, but unfortunately I do have exams coming up, so I couldn't really do a Star Wars movie marathon, and The Mandalorian and Grogu hasn't come out yet, so I can't talk about that. Also, I intended to have Pragmata be the first game I would talk about on this channel, but I literally cannot get my hands on a physical copy of that game. Apparently, the gaming stores in my area are having shipping troubles, so that video will have to wait. Let's get straight into it. Battlefront 2. Now for those who know nothing about this game, or how it came to be, let's start with a brief explanation and history. The Battlefront games are a series of online shooter games set in the Star Wars universe. The first one came out in September of 2004, and the second in November of 2005. These two were developed by Pandemic Studios. There were a few Battlefront related games after that, but that's not what we're here for. In 2015, EA Digital Illusions CE, or DICE, rebooted the series with Battlefront, then Battlefront 2 in 2017. Now, Star Wars games, and now that I think about it, all Star Wars media, have always had a bit of a rocky history, but Battlefront 2 is definitely the most egregious of them, to the point where this game is often credited as the reason for EA's reputation of being obsessed with microtransactions, though this trend obviously exists across many of their titles. During beta trials, the game had a massive microtransaction problem: pay-to-win loot crates. Players could pay real money to get loot boxes, which then opened the possibility of receiving in-game advantages. In response, the devs tried to balance the system, but it was still very easy to exploit. This was not a good start for EA, but it would only get worse. Just 5 days before release, Reddit user MBM Maverick would post this to the Star Wars Battlefront subreddit.
Seriously? I paid $80 to have Vader locked? This is a joke. I'll be contacting EA support for a refund. I can't even play Darth Vader? Disgusting. This age of microtransactions has gone way too far. Leave it to EA though to stretch the boundaries.
This user had purchased a deluxe edition of the game, only to find out that Darth Vader, one of, if not the most iconic character in the Star Wars franchise, had to be purchased with 60,000 credits before he could be played, a sum that many theorize would take tens of hours of grinding to obtain. The user had every right to be disappointed, and this revelation was yet another blow to the game's reputation, but the biggest nail in the coffin would be driven in by EA themselves when they replied to the post with this. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. As for cost, we selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at average per player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course attainable via gameplay. We appreciate the candid feedback and the passion the community has put forth around the current topics here on Reddit, our forums, and across numerous social media outlets. Our team will continue to make changes and monitor community feedback and update everyone as soon and as often as we can. And boy did the community have some feedback. This one comment almost instantly became the most downvoted in Reddit history. And as of the time of making this video, 9 years later, it still holds that record and is sitting at 668,000 downvotes. The devs obviously scrambled to do something in the face of this mounting crisis by reducing the cost of heroes by a significant amount, and the day before release, they finally caved, disabling microtransactions entirely. While obviously the right decision, the damage had already been done. EA's stock price dropped on launch day, and by the end of the month, they had lost $3 billion in value. On top of this, just 2 days before launch, the Belgian gambling regulator announced that they would be investigating Battlefront 2, along with Overwatch, to decide whether loot boxes counted as unlicensed gambling. While they would eventually find that they are to be considered as such, EA escaped any punishment thanks to their last-minute decision to remove microtransactions. Battlefront 2 would go on to take up much more criticism from government bodies, accusing it of promoting gambling to its players, who are primarily underage. EA had, of course, not abandoned the idea of microtransactions. A few months after release, in March of 2018, they were back, but this time in a much different form. To understand this, it's important to understand that Battlefront 2 has two different types of in-game currency, credits and crystals. As of the new update, players could only use real money to buy crystals, which in turn could only buy cosmetic items which offer no advantage to the player. Credits could only be obtained through gameplay, achievements and loot boxes could also only be obtained from achievements. These changes effectively eliminated any gambling and pay-to-win elements from the game. This was not all. As of the 21st of March 2018, all heroes were permanently unlocked and playable for all players, and upgrades for each character was done through progressing that character's level, meaning that anyone could play as Darth Vader as soon as they open the game, without spending a single dollar or credit. Over the next few months and years, DICE would continue to provide free updates to the game, with new maps, characters and game modes being added as the sequel trilogy and spin-off movies were released, as well as to celebrate the older Star Wars media. That was until April 29th, 2020. On this day, DICE would release the last content update ever, adding a new map related to the Rogue One movie, as well as a few other things. After that, EA announced that DICE was moving on to working on the next Battlefield game, which, poetically, would also have a disastrous launch, though for different reasons. And since then, silence. Well, not really. There have been a few patches here and there to fix bugs and hacker exploits, but in terms of new content, EA seems firmly fixed on its position to leave Battlefront 2 as it is. So, I finally get to the point. How is the game today? Well, I've come back to it this May 4th to find out. Now, I've put hundreds of hours into this game, and despite its shortcomings, I still love it very much. And while I accept I'm probably biased by my nostalgia, I think it's genuinely a good online multiplayer shooter. I think it has a great variety in its game modes, the maps are all beautiful and well constructed, and the character abilities and customization are all unique and interesting. Though I will admit that some are somewhat less useful than others. The mix of classes and heroes is actually a pretty cool concept, and the skill point / card progression system does feel rewarding, provides players with a sense of pride and accomplishment. And the campaign is just amazing. I think EA absolutely cooked with the campaign, and honestly, it does more justice to Luke Skywalker in 10 minutes than the sequel trilogy ever did. But even past that, the concept is still so refreshingly new, and the characters are so compelling, I have to give it credit. I think it's even more of a shame that EA and the Star Wars franchise in general doesn't do more with the characters that they created here. Thankfully, the players are still there. Just last year, the game broke its concurrent players record twice on Steam, and last night, when I was recording the gameplay you're watching, I didn't have all that much trouble getting into any games. It's still sometimes glitchy, and the visuals are starting to look like a product of their era, at least to me. But most importantly, it's alive. EA can plug their ears as much as they like, but the fans are here and they are determined to see the game they fought for realize its full potential. The game has potential. The mechanics and format of it is still pretty one of a kind in the shooter genre, and the sheer quantity of Star Wars content that is just begging to be a part of the game is unbelievable. So I guess that's my answer. Today's Battlefront 2 is a great game, and also a great framework to continue to build on. And there is a community that is there and desperate to see it happen. I had so much fun coming back to Battlefront 2. I think it's been almost a year since I last played, and while I still have some of the muscle memory, I'm very rusty, as you could probably tell from the rough time I'm having in the background. This game really means a lot to me. It was the first Star Wars game I ever played as a kid, and since then I've played the 2015 Battlefront, both of the Jedi games, an old Battlefront game for the PSP, and I'm about to play The Force Unleashed. As I said in the beginning of the video, I do mostly reviews on this channel, so if you want to hear more, then be sure to subscribe. I'll be reviewing The Mandalorian and Grogu when that comes out in a couple of weeks, and I'm also planning to do big Star Wars content for every May the 4th. For example, next year I might do a big movie marathon or something, we'll see. It might be a while before my next upload. As I mentioned, I do have exams coming up that I'm gonna have to lock in for, but as soon as that's done, you can probably expect a video on Pragmata, because that game is top of my list. Before I go, I'd just like to say thank you so very much for listening, and I will see you next time.